Yes, good afternoon. My name is Millard Hampton. I'm owner of Hampton Global Communications, and I would like to thank you for this committee and Curran Price for the courage to address this important issue concerning disadvantaged young boys and men. As an Olympic gold and silver medalist, retired law enforcement officer, and track coach, I have many experiences to draw upon. As some of you recall, in the 1972 Olympic Games, 400-meter gold medalist Wayne Collette demonstrated on the award stand after winning. Wayne protested about how America casually overlooks blacks in America. Today, minority and African American youth are not just casually ignored, but looked upon as a commodity for usury unless they are rescued by the speakers who have spoken earlier and others who have taken an interest in the black or minority youth. Our black minority youth are now a billion, if not trillion-dollar commodity for profit by the law enforcement industry and business. So much so that California leads the nation in the numbers of people incarcerated by this state. There is no accident in the laws written to incarcerate minority youth that provide clothing, housing, prison construction, slave wage labor, and employment, primarily for white young adults from outside communities to enforce the laws upon minority youth and guard disadvantaged youth who are socially engineered and manufactured to be criminals. Most police officers who best serve their community have oftentimes come from and lived in the community they served, not from outside coming into a minority community to enforce law. Currently, tax dollars are being cut from schools while tax deductions are given to wealthy communities who give money to schools for their children. In these wealthy communities, California has high schools looking like college campuses with music, art, and other programs desperately needed but denied to minority youth due to a tax base that is unable to even line up at the starting line, or even provide a pencil for that matter. All the while, schools in other communities face increased class size and fewer teachers. Minority children are taught from textbooks that tell the story of history from the wealthy point of view, casually ignoring the real history of the people. To win this battle, you'll have to take the tremendous profit away from the criminal justice industry. The continued privatization of public institutions will only make matters worse for minority youth. Tax deductions to individuals providing money through foundations, local and county government taxation for wealthy communities should be removed to a level playing field where everybody gets fair representation of an equal education. This issue covers not only what we're talking about today, but it covers domestic violence, it covers the destruction of low-income families, it covers our whole nation and more. Your efforts to hear us initiate changes will be fought vigorously by those who benefit from this great equality that exists in our state. I grant you my prayers for your continued success in this effort, and any stride you can make in making the success for the people is most appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and congratulations on your medals.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'm going to go quickly. My name is Henry Harry, and I would say to you that if you give us the tools, we'll fix the problem, because the problem is going to be fixed at the local level in our city, so we need the tools. I'm a 19-year law enforcement officer. I currently work in law enforcement. I've worked gang intel. I've worked in custody, patrol, street-level narcotics. I've coordinated large-scale drug operations by bust, and I've also worked in some prostitution operations, and I've seen our kids out there on the streets. I'm a community activist. I mentor kids. I'm a member of the NAACP. I'm a member of the Black Parallel School Board, which is doing a lot of good work right here in this city, dealing with these issues, because we know the dropout rate leads to incarceration. I'm going to conclude by telling you that over the years, I see the failure of our systems, and it translates into a streamless end of minority kids coming through the system and going to prison. I work down at the courthouse currently, and every Friday we're sentencing kids to 25 and 30 years, and, a lot of them are brown and black. So I will conclude by telling you, this is my life work, and what I would ask you to do is, because these cities get money from you, you should construct language that forces these cities to hold these types of hearings in public and recorded, just like they record their city council meetings. These meetings should be held within the city of Sacramento, within the city of Davis, anywhere that you have these problems, so the record is there, and it forces the people at the local level to deal with the problem. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Joan Coleman, and I'm a retired research and planning analyst from the University of California, Irvine, and also for the state of California. I wanted to encourage you, as someone suggested earlier, to be both smart and strategic in looking at this problem. I think you heard a very comprehensive presentation today, and I think people have given you considerable information on the nature of the problem and the data and so on. But all these things that we have talked about today are not just accidents. They don't happen because students are less smart or because someone perhaps didn't teach them the right course or instruction. America has moved into a situation where we have a very significant population of color, and people who have had white privilege and power are very threatened by that. And they're not sitting around twiddling their thumbs. They have, during the Reagan administration, put in place everything that needs to be in place to make sure that as we move through our daily work, through going to school, that we're just not going to make it. Even students who are honor students in some of the schools in Pennsylvania, for example, who are in the college prep track, they made it that far. They're being recruited specifically by gangs. And if they don't join the gang, there have been murders. And this was reported by the police chief. So all through the system, we are being just stopped at every point of possible success. It's not enough to just look at the punitive policies about expulsion. We have to look at that broader system that says only 10% of any school is likely to go to college, so we'll only offer enough courses for that 10%. That means in high school, which I have worked with, that is 95% Hispanic, got no kids in the college prep track, because they only had enough for so many people, and they took the ones with the highest GPA. These other students who were Hispanic qualified with their GPA, but it wasn't, of course, the highest. So they didn't get in the track, which means they have to wait the next year for the algebra course that they needed to start the college prep track. Well, if you wait a year for algebra, that means the next year you're behind for geometry, and you don't get the pre-calculus that you need to start your math science course in the first level of college if you make it. So there are those kind of problems that we need to look at in terms of how courses are offered, how often they're offered, and how they're funded. Why aren't schools getting enough money to fund the number of kids who qualify to go into the college prep track? The final thing is, our schools in California are funded by property taxes. As long as that happens, we're going to always have inequities. If you did nothing more than change that fact as legislators, you do enough to correct 50% of the problems that you're talking about today. So I would like for you to look at the larger picture as well as some of the smaller pictures we've looked at today.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
How you doing, sir? I want to thank you for your time. I've been here all day. I just want to say, man, hats off to all you guys for taking the time to get us all together, all of us minority leaders to come together as one. My name is Ronald Montez. I'm a former gang member. I've been shot in the face and stabbed about 4 times. I'm now the executive director of a nonprofit agency called California Gang Violence Prevention Service Agency, where we offer a complete line of gang violence prevention, intervention, and alternative services to youth and families who are directly and indirectly impacted by gangs and violence. I contract with schools to stop the violence between Norteños and Sureños, Bloods, Crips, Guns Up, Stars. We get in there with ex-gang members and stop the problem. We use a mediation model to get them guys to chill out, shake hands, and squash their issues. A lot of these kids don't have role model mentors in their lives, or positive role model mentors. No positive role models in their lives. They don't know how to deal with their problems, right? We have law enforcement agencies in some of these schools who are contracting with these schools who are validating our kids as gang members, right? These kids are not gang members. These are our kids. They're not going to continue. This is what's happening, utilizing our kids for long-term job security, generational wealth off of our dysfunctional way of living. That's unacceptable behavior by me. Right? These are our black and Mexican and Asian, Hmong, Minh, Laos, and Vietnamese counterparts. You know what I mean? This has gone too far. You know what I mean? I've been working out here for a long time, and I'm watching this behavior. These law enforcement people know how to do prevention. They know how to do intervention. They know how to provide the alternative. These are college students that are hired to work in the police departments. They know what to do to stop this problem, but they don't do it. Right? They would just rather let us kill each other off, and that solves the problem. The minute a little white girl gets bullied, what happens, right? They start creating a whole nationwide initiative to stop bullying, throughout the United States. But it's okay in Philadelphia and California and New Mexico to let us gang members, or to let us kids kill each other off. Let us minority kids kill each other off. This is unacceptable behavior, right? And I'm glad that you guys took a stance, right? Because we ain't nobody's long-term generational wealth. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, hello. My name is LaDonna Williams, and I'm representing a couple of community-based grassroots in the trenches organizations. One is All Positives Possible, which is in the trenches helping restore communities. We're right there. We are the low-income families, parents that are in here not just complaining about the problem, but trying to be a part of the solution. But I also, there's another organization, People for Children's Health and Environmental Justice, which I'm executive director over, but we've decided that, you know, with the economy, we've had to collaborate across lines and bring together our organizations to be able to address this issue particularly. But I also want, just for a quick second, for you to allow me to wear both hats. One is as a community organizer and advocate, seeing the problems on the ground, and also as a parent. I'm a mother of 6 kids. I have 1 son. I have 5 daughters. And I just want to give you a glimpse of what I have seen over the last 30 years that has contributed to these problems. One is the fact that we will not have honest conversation about the effects of discrimination and the racism that our black boys have to face in school, unlike any others. When we raise the issue and say, hey, look at what's happening to black boys, we get attacked because then they say, well, you're separating the other minorities. We should be able to discuss these issues openly and honestly without it being that we are downgrading the racism on other races. But we cannot deny the level of what our black boys experience in school. Case in point, when my son was in kindergarten, I made it a point to come up to the school, bring him lunch. I noticed one day he's standing outside the classroom, and he had tears in his eyes, and I asked him, hey, what happened? And he said, well, me and my friend were throwing paper balls into the garbage. I said, well, what happened? He said, well, the teacher screamed at me. I said, well, what happened to the other kid, his best friend being white? He said, oh, well, he stayed in the classroom. One incident. So then we rolled it a few years later. He's in 3rd grade. He's on his way to school. He's walking with a couple of other kids of other nationalities, couple of them white, one Hispanic, he's black. One of the other kids threw a rock and hit the window, broke the people's window. He actually, let me back up, he actually wasn't walking with them. He's walking their head, they break the window, they start running, and they all get to school. Lo and behold, they pull him out of school with a policeman in his face, screaming and hollering at him and telling him he's going to go to jail. When the owner of the house came and identified who the kids were, it was a white kid and a Hispanic kid that had did it, but they pulled out the black kid, my son. Let's, case in point, bring it up to college level. He goes to college. He's playing baseball. He was actually drafted by the Phillies out of high school. But during his college year, his first year of college, he's on the field playing, and he made the mistake, and I did tell him, that's also accountability, didn't listen to mom, keep your girlfriends away. He brings the girlfriend to the game, and she gets upset about a phone number or something she finds. She goes in the car, she wrecks the car. He's on the field actually playing baseball. They all come and find out, oh, hey, somebody's, in the parking lot. The car has been wrecked. What has happened? He comes running out, being the only black kid on the team playing in San Ramon, California. He realizes it's his car, and it's his girlfriend. He starts hollering at her, what in the world have you done? And I'm sure he probably said a few bad words, but everybody is just chaos at this time. They then arrest him and throw him in jail. Now, we're talking about a 4.0 college student at this point that has never seen the inside of a jail other than when his grandfather, who was the sheriff for 25 years, who passed away, had came and showed him, this is what I want you to be when you grow up. At this point, my son hates authority. He hates the police. He hates anything that has to do with that because they have disrespected him. And my point being is, even when you look at the statistics that face us here, it mentioned that there is 68% Latino that graduates, 59% black, 83% whites, and 89% Asians. That's still saying blacks are at the top of the list when it comes to negative impacts of the lowest graduation rates, the health effects, and all of that. And my point being is this: I hope that after we leave here, that they do continue to address the fact that it does not invalidate if we address specifically what affects blacks or affects Latinos or whatever, but we should not have to mention blacks and Latinos together in order for it to be validated. We can be separated. The last thing that I want to say also is that when our organizations are addressing these issues specific to African Americans, we don't get the funding. They say that we don't have the capacity to do this if we have majority black leadership. That has to change. Just like they take a chance on Latino, they have the support. Native Americans, they get the support. If you've done the homework, you will see that when federally recognized tribe Native Americans graduate from high school, they get a stipend of something like $8,000 or $10,000 to be able to support them in their endeavors. You have programs that are supporting Latino, hold on a second, to do good things when they graduate. But when it comes to black, these programs are missing. And that's what I'm saying, is that we've got to be able to do this. And last but not least, when it comes time for these kind of panels, to only give the public a quick minute or two and then we force the issue like I'm doing now to get a few extra minutes to say something, that's unfair. If you're really going to begin to solve this problem, you've got to listen to us poor folks that are in the trenches, actually seeing what's going on and being able to bring it to you all, because you all are not going to get it at the level that we're getting it to be able to solve the problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yes, I would like to thank you very much for having me. My name is Ernie Perez, and I am a parent and a citizen from the poorest neighborhood in Fresno, which is the Lowell neighborhood. In today's society, there are many issues.
I think your phone is causing. You gotta. The feedback is caused.
Okay.
Yeah.
In today's society, there are many issues that an impoverished community face, and education should be at the top of that list. Education is key to success, both financially and spiritually, because it gives opportunities to those who strive to accomplish and better themselves. It also allows for them to become productive citizens and give back to society. Without equal opportunity to quality education, no matter how much money you have, we as a society are digging ourselves into a serious hole for the future if we are not providing quality education for all. I grew up on the southeast side of Fresno, California. I attended schools that were considered to be what we would call ghetto. There were many times while I was growing up that I was extremely envious and jealous of what the schools up north were offering. They had everything: the money, the support, the field trips, the parent and community involvement, etc., etc. So I am here asking myself and others, why are the underprivileged forgotten about? Why are poor neighborhoods overlooked? Why is it that a lot of schools in these impoverished parts of town underachieve and fail to provide a safe and equal education? The problems facing our poor communities are numerous, many of which can be called self-created. But the lack of educational equality is created by the many cities and counties in our state who seem to do things to appease the citizens who live above the poverty level. I live in the Lowell Elementary neighborhood in Fresno, California. This neighborhood is one of the poorest, if not the poorest neighborhoods in Fresno. This neighborhood was identified in the Brookings Institute report as a part of Fresno's highest concentrated clusters of poverty. It is also called home to the highest concentration of Latinos in Fresno. As of the 2010 statistics, the average family earned income was around $14,000, and this was in the range of around 7,000 people who live in our neighborhood. Our elementary school is among the lowest in the state with their proficiency test scores. I repeat, our elementary school is among the lowest when it comes to proficiency test scores in the state for years running. Lowell Elementary has roughly 500 students and is consistently a low-performing school. It ranks 5,187th out of roughly 5,400 schools here in California with a proficiency score of 11.61. I feel that is a complete failure by our educational system with ultimate impacts on our young boys and men, and ultimately our city and state. The schools are not preparing our impoverished children to lead our nation in the future, and then the government wants to make more cuts to our educational system. How much more can be cut? My son's first grade class went on 0 field trips. They hardly ever got the chance to go into any computer labs, And in my opinion, most of the teachers there are extremely inspirationally dissatisfied. Because of budget cuts, teachers are forced to go into their own pockets for school supplies and whatnot. What happens if that teacher has no extra money because she gets paid so little? The answer is that the problem rolls downhill to my child, and they go without a proper education. There are many solutions to this problem. First and foremost, there needs to be more parent and citizen involvement. We do not have to accept this gap in engagement. These children are going to be leading our nation pretty soon here, and they need some help. There also needs to be more outreach organizations aimed at education, job training, and easier access to resources. We need to keep in mind that the educational system has failed these children, and they need some help. And their parents need some help. And our neighbors need some help. See where I'm getting with this? We need help in our neighborhoods, or our wonderful free country will continue to go downhill. It really hurts my feelings to speak to someone and they say things like, well, if they don't care, then why should we? There are people out here who care, and we need help in order to help others. And I just want to end with saying that I don't think that it's fair for people who live in poor communities that are poor also have to get a poor education. And if there's people who feel that there are no children left behind, they're more than welcome to follow me home. And there are about 450 students a year that are left behind.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Pablo Aguilera, and I'm also came down from Fresno, California. I've heard a lot of wonderful testimony in regards to the wonderful things that are going on today and all the plans for the future. But what I'd like to address is the past, because I'm a firm believer that if I don't learn from my past mistakes, I will repeat them. Over 30 years ago, when I was a youth growing up in Fresno, California, I struggled with complex issues and scenarios that were brought on by a breakdown in my family structure and difficult social environments. And in my day, there was places like the Boys Club, the Mosqueda Youth Center, after-school programs, and they were safe places that engaged me and they kept me busy, but they never really offered any real solace or healing to children like me and many others dealing with broken homes and violence in my barrio. I felt alone, abandoned, and overwhelmed with a sense of guilt. I chose to turn to substance abuse and crime, both of which offered me an escape and a sense of connection. As I grew and I struggled with my addictions and my criminal lifestyle, I noticed a pattern. High school dropout, in and out of jail, on and off welfare, employed, unemployed, Medi-Cal, food stamps, you name it. And the whole time I was taking advantage of all these social programs that were out there. And they were there to solve immediate issues, food, clothes, housing, schooling, whatever that may be, okay? But I never got anything concrete that helped me to address these issues, nothing that was there to help me to grasp the tools and the skills that I needed to break out of a continuing cycle of dependence. I'm 43 years old now. I'm 6 years clean and sober, and I've learned the necessary coping skills to become a contributing member of society. But you know what? I know I'm one of the lucky ones. Today, our youth face more serious and critical risks than any previous generation. As a father, I face this struggle every day. How can I raise my child in this environment? Crime, violence, sex, substance abuse, these are all real issues that are in our communities, okay? We as parents, the schools, the policymakers, the community, we have to work together to find a solution that's going to look beyond just their immediate needs. You know what I'm saying? We need to find a way to build nurturing environments so that our children can be hopeful regarding their futures. Whatever policies or programs or initiatives or directives you guys choose to do, we have to remember that it needs to focus on our responsibility to empower our children to grow and become reciprocally cooperative citizens. Me and these kids today, we all have had that same mentality. I'm just looking for a way out of this barrio, the hood, the streets, whatever it is, okay? We have an opportunity, you have an opportunity to change that mentality, to empower these kids to want to stay and to want to build change. I strongly believe that our children, in order to feel hopeful, they must come to believe that the future has a possibility for them to accomplish their goals and that there will be adults here who will support them in bettering their lives. And in doing so, we will build better communities. And last but not least, the fact that this committee exists right now gives me hope that in 30 years my son won't be standing here. Thank you
so much, sir. Thank you. Yes.
Good afternoon. Buenas tardes. My name is Ray Leon. I'm with the Valley Latino Environmental Advancement Project, but I'm a longtime organizer in the San Joaquin Valley. I've been organizing and mentoring and advocating in the area of Fresno and Huron for the past 18 years. I know I don't look that old, but I'm also associate president of the Mexican American Political Association, where we deal with a lot of education equity issues on very often. But, I mean, in terms of the undermining of youth of color to become leaders, I'm proud to say it has finally taken some serious consideration, and seeing all of you legislators, at least some of you that still stand after this long after day, are going to be really helpful in being the champions as we move forward. We've been building the ground. We've been mentoring as many youth as possible that we could, trying to work the prevention, but at sometimes it feels like if we're at the end of the river and the bridge is broken and there's tons of people going through, but we get tired pulling out the people that we do and not really get the opportunity or the forces to be able to build that bridge. I'm hoping that this is the beginning of walking upstream to build that bridge. And I mean, I think it is important that that all of you are here, and my good friend Victor Manuel Perez, who I organized with in the Valley, helped him out with Escuela Si Pintas No back in the days. And I know another champion in the legislature. I wish he was here as well, Luis Alejo, who he put out the resolution for ethnic studies, which is extremely critical. I think that leads to self-esteem, which is also self-determination. And if we want to provide youth with the tools from within so that they could be victorious on the outside, I think it starts with knowing who you are, being able to identify with that, being able to embrace that, and being able to relate to others that share a similar culture or similar elements and values. And I think my experience in going to the university really helped me out with that, because, of course, at the high school level that didn't exist and doesn't exist on the most part. But I think that was really fundamental to advancing my own character development to become a leader on behalf of my community. And I mention that because while I'm the youngest of 7 siblings, my father is a bracero farm worker, 64, from Michoacan. And growing up, I'm the youngest of the 7. 3 of us went to high school, got a diploma. 2 of my brothers got GEDs in the prison. 1 brother got a GED as an adult. One of my brothers was a victim to street violence and is no longer with us. And so growing up and reflecting after I got into college, I really started thinking about that. And what did that mean in respect to who I was? And just mapping that out timeline-wise in respect to what was going on in the family and in the community, it was very obvious that during the time that there was a conflict within the household and no programs in the community, and the only mentors were people that were just, the tecatos shooting up, or just a lot of the wrong elements, And so, and just mapping that out, and during the time that the madness was going on, the 3 youngest ones of us were sent out, to Napa to live with my aunt. And so the older siblings, other than my sister, who was close to my mother, got caught up in what was going on in those days. And part of what was going on was some of that sniffing of the paint in the sock or in the paper bag. And so, I mean, in thinking about that, realizing that, wow, it's amazing. When we returned, there was boxing, there was Boy Scouts, and there was explorers. And I was able to be a Boy Scout. We're able to, get just some of these experiences that I think really, really kept us out from going into what would eventually lead to the oldest siblings to earn prison time. And perhaps earn is the wrong term in terms of the unjust methods on how our people are targeted for incarceration. But nonetheless, the difference in when youth programs existed and when they didn't was evident. And so after getting out of school, going back home, even during the time I was in school, that's when I started organizing and mentoring in my hometown of Huron, a farm worker community, which is one of the poorest communities in the region. And this is a region that is recognized as the Appalachians of the West. According to the Brookings Institute report, which was mentioned earlier, and as well as the Measure of America Human Development Report, which identified 5 congressional districts in the San Joaquin Valley as the worst. And actually Congressional District 20, which encompasses Fresno County mostly, Kings County, and a good part of Kern County, as the worst out of the 436 congressional districts. It's at the very bottom in respect to income, in respect to education, in respect to health. And I think it's not difficult to understand that to have a good education will lead you to good income and to good health. But the experience that I've had in advocating for farm worker parents and students in the San Joaquin Valley has been captivating, because on one end we fight air pollution at the air district and deal with the industrial agriculture industry, and on the other end, when we fight for education equity, we find that it's the same agriculture industry players that are on those boards and really undermining the educational advancement of our students. And so with that, I mean, the way I interpret that is that there is a very serious culture in our region that is trying to perpetuate the following generations to continue as farm workers. And being a counselor with Upward Bound and working with the University of California, I've seen many examples that have participated in this perpetuation. During the time that I was with the UC office of the president out of Fresno doing outreach, numerous times I would go to schools where there'll be a lot of students of color, but going into the room where I give the presentation, there'd be 7 white kids, usually sons and daughters of, say, either the dairy owners or whatever company that is there that was getting the information, right? And so this is a huge problem. It's a political problem. And I think back when all these statements were being shared, I don't know if you've ever seen the Chicano documentary where a student, it's the one that Taking Back Our Schools, it's one of the 4, where a student saying, there has to be a problem. There is a problem here. We are not in a vacuum. If 50% of the Chicano students are dropping out every year, there has to be a problem. We're not in a vacuum. There is racism here. And I mean, I have to echo that. There are some huge systemic and political and structural issues that must be attended to. And I think the only way we could do them is going to be together. I think on the ground we've been organizing. We got some players that are making good moves in the policy world. In the legislature, I think we have the people we need. And also in respect to the policy advocates like Policy Link and numerous other organizations statewide, I think we're ready for this. And I am here as a servant to my people and a part of the struggle. And the movement continues. We can make this happen. The sooner the better. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me just say to all of you, many of you stayed throughout the whole day, nearly 5 hours, and we very much appreciate your participation in the first hearing that we've held addressing this question, which we feel is extremely important. There was very impressive testimony given today. I know that from my visits to San Quentin and some other county facilities where I've had a chance to talk one-on-one with many of the young men of color that have made mistakes and that are preparing to reenter society. One of the things that has been important for them to know is that we care. And if you conclude anything about the hearing today and the beginning and the overwhelming testimony, is that a number of people do care. We also know that there are solutions out there. We've heard many solutions today. And so the task of the committee going forward will be to take this hearing throughout California to receive information from community people and from organizations and from individuals affected by public policies that have been discussed today to determine how do we save a generation of forgotten men and forgotten young men. We cannot afford to forget them. and we must work as a community to find real solutions to restore and save some of these lives and help them become productive citizens and to the benefit of all of us. Thank you all for participating. This hearing stands adjourned.